it's Father's Day just the other day, right? And it made me think, because it's such a lovely and beautiful time for dads and the whānau, dads and the family, celebrating, same as it is for Mum on Mother's Day, same as it is for Mum. It's a whānau celebration. It's awesome how awesome your mum and dad are. And all those whānaus out there that think, yeah, you know, mum and dad are awesome. And it made me think, yeah, mum and dads are fucking awesome, eh? I reckon, well, the ones here in Kiwiland, anyway, are pretty cool. And I take it like that's probably the same for most places out there in the universe, that mums and dads, you know, you celebrated because they were. Even though they didn't put too much of the work in, they still were mum and dad. And then that got me thinking about all those kids out there that were raised or are being raised right now by fathers, not dads, but fathers or stepfathers that are pieces of shit, that have no mana. The ones that not just beat but terrorise usually the whole whānau, the whole family. Those pieces of shit. Like they perform like in front of others like they're men, and then when they're drunk or just had a bad day, the whānau will pay. Real pieces of shit. It would suck being in a family growing up and having your old man beat everyone in the family, and no one in your family, like your uncle or your auntie or your grandmother, grandfather or anyone, no one, no cousin or nothing, stops this old man from beating them up, stopping kids from having a proper childhood. And then that got me thinking about this guy and his world. This guy here, he can be summed up in 6 characters, 2 acronyms: FBI, BSU. And why did I think of Mr. Douglas at this time? And it's because he would have thought that thought before me just thinking it now. You know, he would have thought that thought before me. He would have thought that thought way back then. And it's because, you know, on Father's Day, he would have been surrounded by his whānau, and they'll all be giving him prezzies and treat him like a king. And I bet you that he would have, at some stage, would have thought, while sitting in that chair being gloated upon, that, you know, the last fucking 12 serial killers that I just talked to, 100% of them said their parent treated them like shit. Either one, the other, or both. So he would have had that thought way back then before most people. He would have thought, looking around and seeing all these whānaus, all these families celebrating their dad, he would have thought, man, it must suck being a kid, being a boy in that little whānau, having to go up to your old man and praise him, just knowing underneath your old man's just a prick. He would have thought that thought back then on Father's Day, way back then. And he would have been one of the first ones ever to ever put down the connection. Though not needed to create, it is an element that can help tremendously when it comes to the design and creation of DCs like Breen. And that is the argument that is brought forward by defence counsels around the world whenever they defend a DC like Breen in court. And it's also an element which one must look at when deciding parole. And that is why I would say that with what this DC is and what this DC did makes that element just a really poor excuse for behaviour of a little man with a really dumb J4 plan. You see, Breen here, he's an Australian, a rampaging one, a tot-throwing a tanty, as we say, couldn't control his little tot temper, and one night while out with his mates and his girlfriend started doing that thing that girlfriends do oh so well. She started nagging him, and nag as well she did. And DC here, with his little tot temper, thought, oh, I can't handle this. I'm going to go kill everyone in my whānau. And the statement that Breen's about to give, the statement's one of those statements that you'll never hear a cop say, hey, do you want to take a polygraph on that? Anyways, let's go listen to this horrific little story by this horrific little man named Breen.
I'm having an argument with my girlfriend, just with the bipolar and that, just go off. Like, we've been sort of, it's been sort of having a shit run for a while, and it's just like, you know, that was just it.
Don't do this.
She arced me up to a point where I was that angry, and I left the house with with my knife, and just went from there. There was no one to fucking sort of calm me down or whatnot, but just went from there. But it's always sort of been like, I know it's like a time bomb sitting in my head. I knew sooner or later I was going to go and fucking get my old man and the rest of the and just tonight was a night.
So our DC leaves a party on foot, but then he gets an idea to hijack a car. So as this guy drives past, he attacks him, but luckily, unfortunately, the guy drives off and leaves him.
He was going past me slow, so I took a swing at him. I don't know whether I got him in the head or the throat or in the chest or whatnot, but I definitely had a stab at him, but I'm definitely connected too.
So now, still on foot, our DC now sees people hanging outside a fish and chip shop.
There's a takeaway shop on Dudley Street, and that there was at least one or more stabbing incidents around.
Maybe that's where the big guy was, because I do remember having to go at like a big fat fucker. Everyone sort of like fled the servo or hid in toilets.
So everyone in the takeaway's kind of hid in the back room, and our DC couldn't get through. So then he goes on another hunt for a car, and then he bumps into some guy, and that's where he gets one.
And I jumped out from next to the house, and I was like, "Look, mate, I'm not going to hurt you. So I've got nothing against you. Don't know if you're in bar soap."
Yeah.
I said, "But I do want your car," and took his keys. He walked inside with his missus, shut the door, and I took the car and drove off towards Long Jetty.
DC's grandparents live in Long Jetty.
Drove the car down to Long Jetty, planned on murdering my grandparents. I was going to butcher them.
Yeah.
But I was like...
When you say that, do you mean that you're going to kill them?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Is that Norma and Colin?
Norma and Colin, yep. Going to get butchered.
So DC arrives at his grandparents' place.
So if you're quiet, you can walk up the side of the house, come around to the back of the house.
Yeah.
Saw my grandpa sitting there, grandma sitting there. I had my knife in my hand, ready to roll. And all of a sudden, like a searchlight came on, like a security light. And the spotlight came on and probably stood there for about 5 to 10 seconds. Turned out it was the next door neighbour returning from shopping or whatnot. I sort of ducked down behind the thing. When I went past, I saw me pop and my grandma. They didn't know I was there. They were sort of numb to the fact that the security light even went on.
So are they still all right, mate?
Yeah. Yeah, no, sweet.
So our DC got spooked by that security light, so then he took off. And he was on foot again and wanted another car. And saw an opportunity with a couple on the street.
Threatened him and his girlfriend with a knife. Look, love, I said, I'm not going to fucking... Look, I've got nothing against your boyfriend. Don't know him from a fucking bar of soap. I said, but I do need your fucking car. I said, and I need it now. Yeah, so I jumped in that and started driving off towards Kalani Vale,
where DC's father and stepmother, along with a couple of half-siblings, live. So DC drives down and finally gets there, goes up to the side of the house, and puts his horrific plan into action.
Don't really know why I smashed through the glass. Probably just a scare tactic, just to give him fucking spooks before I killed. On the back of my hunting knife, I got like a little steel point. Turned it around, smashed in the I guess I don't know what you call it. You call it like the like that pattern glass, like with the koalas and shit all over it. Smashed in the two sides of that. He started yelling and screaming.
Is that at the front door, mate? Or?
Yeah, that is the actual front door, yeah.
Right.
So I smashed in that glass. He's like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah, whatever. And then I opened the front door there and walked straight over to him and fucking started stabbing him. He's like, Corey, don't do it. Fucking, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I did all that shit. Yeah, and stabbed him to death. Then I walked out the back so I could hear screaming. And I'm pretty sure Felicia, that fucking filthy fucking slut of a thing, she was in the hallway when I smashed through the front door, because she walked out the back door and across the patio. And if you walk out the back door and across the patio, there's a back door into this garage/laundry. At some point, I opened the door and she was behind the door. And I had the door up against her like that and just stabbed the fuck out of her. Got her a few times in the torso and that, and hopefully got her in the neck and the fucking head. Hopefully she's fucking dead.
He really is, he really is a worthless, gutless prick. And here's the thing is, he was going to go do his mum, but his J4 plan was so fucking stupid that his car broke down and that was the end of it.
I went back down to the car, blew the clutch in the car, come down the hill, couldn't get shit. I had a wagon follow me from a roundabout, police wagon, follow me from a roundabout. And it's just basically just a matter of time. Got out of the car while it was still rolling, ran up, hit a dead end. Not looking to get shot by the cops. I think she's surrendered. Old mate fired the taser at me feet or something. I don't know where he shot that. It was terrible. But through the knife, dropped me guts. Put the bracelets on. Got it all. All right, yeah.
A man is tonight behind bars accused of murdering his father and his father's partner during a violent rampage on the New South Wales Central Coast. Locals in the suburb of Killarney Vale have been left shattered by the Good Friday killings, which police fear may have been witnessed by the couple's children. Natasha Exelby joins us now from the Killarney Vale home. Natasha, do we know yet what led to these deadly attacks?
Well, Matt, it's believed that there was a whole string of violent events in the lead up to this. The man who is charged with these two murders is also accused of attempting to break into two separate homes, also stealing two different cars and allegedly stabbing a man in the process, as well as assaulting two other men at a takeaway store. Now, police were alerted to this chain of events when there were reports that a young girl, 9 years of age, ran out of this house screaming, "This man has killed my mummy and daddy." Paul Breen was known as a family man. Between him and his partner Felicia Crawford, they shared 6 children, but now one of those children is accused of murdering both of them.
And we've located 2 people deceased in the residence here. Police have managed to locate a 25-year-old male a short time later.
Simon Richmond is a family friend.
I didn't actually believe it. I thought, oh, then it was a bit of a joke, you know. And then coming in, yeah, obviously seeing the police van in the street here, then obviously, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's real.
It's alleged Corey Breen entered the house around 8 p.m. and stabbed the couple to death. Their 2 young children witnessed the murder.
Brooke messaged me saying that they were in the house, so, I mean, I can't just for them to see it, that's like, they're only real young, that's sort of, man, that'll scar them for life.
Neighbours saw a lot of the little boy and girl.
This time of the year, or any time of the year, but I mean, they've been looking forward to looking for Easter eggs and that sort of thing, and I can only imagine what's going through their mind.
All we thought about was the kids. We just hoped the kids weren't there.
It's alleged the 25-year-old embarked on a ruthless rampage in the lead-up to the horrific act. He's accused of a domestic fight on Hay Street in Gorokan before heading a few streets away and attempting to hijack a car and stab the driver. A few blocks over, it's alleged he was involved in an attempted assault on 2 males at a takeaway store. A short time later, there was an attempted home invasion and a car was stolen. Then, in Long Jetty, another vehicle was stolen. There was then another attempted home invasion in Killarney Vale right before the accused allegedly murdered Paul Breen and Felicia Crawford. The 25-year-old was spotted on Wyong Road where a police pursuit began and officers finally arrested the man in Berkeley Vale where they also seized a knife.
Understandably, at this stage, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at this location and several other locations so that we can collect all the evidence.
The chilling chain of events has sent a shiver down the spine of everyone in the neighbourhood, many thinking about the family who is mourning their loved ones.
Shocking thing. I wish them all the best in the future and that sort of thing, but what can you say, you know, it's a shocking thing.
2 parents have lost their life and their children are scarred for life. Maddie, Corey Breen has been charged with 2 counts of murder and also 2 counts of armed robbery, but more charges are expected to be laid.
So, how did it all end up?
A New South Wales man who stabbed his father and stepmother to death 2 years ago has been jailed for 42 years. Nine's Ellie Walsh joins us now. Ellie, good afternoon. Some dramatic scenes outside court today.
Indeed, there was, Amelia. There was abuse hurled from within court, within the galley. And of course, this then spilled out onto the pavement. Angry scenes outside of court with furious family members and their supporters upset and disgusted that Corey Breen, the man who had murdered two of their relatives, narrowly avoided a life sentence. It was 2013 when Corey Breen snapped, leading him on a violent rampage on the Central Coast in which he stabbed to death his father, Paul Breen, and then turned the hunting knife on his stepmother, Felicia Crawford, stabbing her to death as she was cowering behind a door. Now, the court heard that Breen had been harbouring a deep resentment and on the night of those murders, a time bomb had gone off in his head. But despite this, today, when handing down her sentence, Justice Jane Matthews said that since then Breen had shown deep remorse. He'd entered an early guilty plea and he also showed positive signs and good prospects of rehabilitation. Now, when she said this was met with groans of disgust from the victims' family members, many of whom stormed out of court. And today at the centre of that entire melee was Debbie, the Corey Breen's mother. Take a listen.
It was just horrendous for the whole family to relive that.
Does this give you any closure at all?
Not really. I don't think so. Not experiencing any of this before, it's hard to say.
Now, as Corey Breen was today led from the dock, his hands in cuffs, family members hurling abuse at him, he kept his head down. He did not look back at his family. Tonight, he is spending the first of 33 years behind bars, the first night of many sleepless nights for the 29-year-old. The Crown argued for a life sentence. They feel that 33 years is not enough for this 29-year-old, but he will be eligible for release at the age of 64.
So, that brings us to the end of this episode on DC Breen and the tantrum that he had. And that makes me think back to Father's Day and all those kids that maybe didn't have it so good. And I'd want to say to them, kia kaha, stay strong, and know that all of us here at the DC respect the shit out of you. Why? Because you didn't grow up to be a Breen. Stay safe, all of you, and I'll see you guys next episode.